drummed out of the clubs. Yet there was something about her. True, that something wasn't subtle. Every damn young buck at every event all season saw what Cam saw. Her attractive figure, shining caramel-coloured hair, gold-flecked eyes which danced when she laughed, and a smile that absolutely took his breath away. And all of this she used to devastating effect. Unfortunately, she used it on every man Jack who came her way. He would have welcomed her showing him a modicum of favouritism, considering they'd met before the season even began because Margaret's older sister had married his best friend, Simon de Vere, and bearing in mind he was the damn Earl of Cambrey. Yes, it would be nice to be shown a little partiality. Perhaps she did have a special interest in him. They had spent considerable time together since her mother and two sisters had come early to London. Not only had he dined at the de Vere townhouse, Cam and Margaret had sat next to each other at a cricket match at the newly opened Fenner's Ground and cheered the players together. Another time they'd laughed, as discreetly as possible, of course, when a particularly untalented soprano failed to hit her notes, or any notes, for that matter, on the Sadler's Wells stage. Nevertheless, under and over his name on Margaret's dance cards were always many other gentlemen's, including Westing, a man younger than Cam by at least 7 years, which stung. It wasn't like Cam was ancient, but at 28 he was nearly a decade older than Miss Blackwood. Maybe she was simply too young, too fickle. He groaned when she entered the ballroom with her mother and her older sister. Too damnably beautiful. Maggie loved the season, and everything about it. As much as her older sister Jenny thought it frivolous, impractical, even tedious, Maggie thought it exciting, titillating, and of course utterly necessary. Her debut season the year before had been cut short by the death of her father. In quick order, what was left of her family, namely her mother and two sisters with a few servants, had been forced to move out of London. Maggie had left behind her hopes for a well-matched future. Selling their lovely townhouse had not been easy. Moving back into their small cottage in Sheffield and being forced to become a French tutor had been excruciating. She'd been cut off from all her friends, including her dearest one, Ada, another baron's daughter with expectations of finding a good husband. And then, thank her lucky stars, her older sister had caught the eye of the Earl of Lindsay, and before one could dance thrice around the maypole, they had married. Thus, here Maggie was, with a full social season ahead of her and new gowns. Life was bliss. What's more, she'd caught the eye of the worldly Earl of Cambrey, who cut quite a dashing figure. Something about him caused her insides to sizzle in an unfamiliar and dangerous manner. However, she feared looking too eager in his eyes, or anyone's for that matter. Moreover, she didn't want to settle on the first man to capture her attention. John, as she privately thought of him, was as old as her sister's new husband. Not that he was too old for her, but she feared he might not share her same sense of fun. Perhaps he would want to sit out each dance or demand she produce babies immediately, as Jenny was doing, already with child mere months into her marriage. No, Maggie wanted to live a little before she experienced such a terrifying adventure, all too aware it might cut her life extremely short indeed. She knew of 2 ladies in their circle of acquaintances who had died in childbirth this past year. Shuddering, she forced herself to send happy thoughts toward Jenny, who would give birth in the fall. Please, God, let her have an easy and safe delivery. Why are you looking like that? Her mother asked. With such an expression of worry, you're making a frown line, and no one will approach you. Her mother was wrong, of course. No sooner did Maggie set foot on the parquet floor than 6 gentlemen jockeyed for position to put their names upon her dance card. A moment, if you will, boys, she teased, knowing she was being impudent. Obviously, one shouldn't call lords Fowler and Whelks by such a term. But Maggie did. What's more, she knew she could get away with it. Despite her beauty, she would not have deigned to do so were she still poor Maggie Blackwood from Sheffield, whose father, the Baron, died penniless. However, as Miss Margaret Blackwood, sister-in-law to the Earl of Lindsay and residing in the de Vere townhouse on Portman Square, she was a coveted eligible. She could get away with teasing and more. When the crush of gentlemen dissipated, she spied Lord Cambrey standing casually yet assuredly, drink in one hand, expression of mild amusement upon his handsome face. No, she could not think of him as a boy, nor ever call him such without embarrassing herself.